What's going on there, folks? Good afternoon. It's the Earthmaster here on this Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022 date, about 1:50 p.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 1.4 earthquake here into the Alaska region. Very small microquake up there. Seen a little bit of activity ramping up around the globe today, including some movement again up around the Iceland region where they've seen a 5.0 within the last 24 hours. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here in the Iceland region. All volcanoes right now still currently as is far as the color code goes and the aviation status. Looks like no major changes. I know we have seen some earthquake activity out here kind of kicking things up in the region around Iceland. This is the last 48 hours of earthquake activity. I see a lot of it confined down here into this region. I had a 4.2 back on July 31st and some other earthquakes as well. Either way, a large number of active earthquakes within this separate area of the Iceland region. Now I want to bring up some GPS stations here. I was looking at earlier some of these indicators there. As far as being able to tell if this is volcanic or strictly just plate tectonics, because this here sits on a major, let me bring this up here. This kind of bring some light into view here where Iceland is. It does sit into a major zone here, kind of a rift zone, if you will, between the two major plates in the Atlantic up here, way up here in the Atlantic. And a lot of times it's just earthquake activity, but it can lead to some volcanic activity, considering all this earthquake movement that we've seen over the last week or so. Again, I was checking out some GPS stations down here, and I don't see anything out of the ordinary. This is all very typical around this area of Iceland. No major noted changes across the board in GPS stations, and this is just one GPS station. There's many different GPS stations throughout the area. Now this goes back to, looks like that just barely goes back into 2022 here. So this is a little bit older data. And sometimes it looks like they may have just did a little instrument adjustment there on the readings for that GPS station. But just kind of watching it. I mean, you know, a lot of times this is just plate movement. Earthquake activity can, you know, along this plate boundary it's very high, so not all the time is it going to be volcanic, but we're watching it for sure. I definitely like to keep an eye on the Iceland area, considering all the swarming activity they've had here. Not for sure about the exact count of earthquake tally here, at least within the last 48 hours. It's definitely quite a bit. See if we got any as far as the risk and warnings go. Looks like because of the earthquake activity here within this region, you got risk of rock falls, but nothing volcanic. No alerts on that yet. So just kind of watching it, see how it goes. Let me check the EMSC model here. These guys sometimes have a little bit better view of all the earthquake activity up there, and there's a lot. There's definitely a lot. Let's see what we got. Let me zoom in here. See if I can just get a little tally. This here looks like it's just only got about 26 earthquakes here on the map, including well, there's a 4.8. It looks like they may have downgraded that 5-pointer. So which one's reporting the 5-pointer? Is it EMSC or USGS? Let me double check here. Looks like the USGS is keeping that up there. 0227 UTC time is that 5.0. So well, it kind of looks like let me see what this is here real quick. Looks like they may be having a little bit more activity than what the USGS is reporting, but again, I'm not for sure why I'm not seeing the 5-pointer on the EMSC model, considering that was earlier today at 0227, right? 0227 UTC time. These dates are kind of off here. So either way, definitely a lot of activity. Watch it. I'm going to see if I can get a total tally of quake activity here for tonight's update. But just looking at the last 30 days here, 4.5 and above. And again, there's not a whole lot because USGS is kind of skimpy on reporting the majority of these quakes here in the Iceland region. They're only showing, looks like about 5 earthquakes here. So yeah, within the last 30 days, 4.5 and above. Yeah, there might be more than that. And of course, they're not going to show anything up below the 4.0 threshold. Here's 4.0 and above. Got about 10 earthquakes in this area, all confined to this region. So it is a major plate boundary, folks. There's definitely something brewing out there. It's all roughly around 10 kilometers or so for the earthquake activity in Iceland. But as far as volcanic status goes, there's not anything noted or has changed currently. But that doesn't mean there's not getting ready to be. I mean, a lot of stuff could be going on down below here. We'll definitely keep an eye on it and keep folks updated. Let's see what else. Let's back out of here and go to the all magnitudes map and see what we got cooking out here. Pretty active day today across the states. Had some movement also down south here. Off the coast of Honduras, had a 5.4 and some other 4s, or 5.4 and some smaller quakes there. I think I'm still kind of feeling the effects of the smoke inhalation the other day on Sunday when I was up covering the fire, the McKinney fire. Whew, my throat was hurting yesterday. I had a headache all night. Today I'm just a little loopy, but hey, that's okay. At least I got my voice still. That's a good thing. So a little earthquake activity out here around the Caribbean plate, Honduras coast. Looking at some movement over here around the Puerto Rico area as well. A couple smaller quakes up here around the Puerto Rico Trench. A couple 3s, that is. Up here in the States, looking like a little activity throughout the Appalachian Mountains westward through the New Madrid zone. Seeing that line of activity here. No major swarms to take note of today. Most of the activity confined out here along the west coast. Southern California lighting up a little bit there in the last hour with some red circles. Looks like a couple small microquakes there in the region. The 2.5 and above looks like a little activity today, including one up here off the coast of Northern California along the southern end of the Gorda Plate right here on the Pacific Plate and the Gorda Plate boundary. A little 2.9. Rest of the all magnitudes, of course, some movement outside of Redding. We've been watching this area up here because we have been seeing a little bit of tremor activity confined here further to the west. Again, down dip. That type of activity does add strain a little bit further up, I shouldn't say upstream, but at the surface levels here where that tremor is occurring. Basically shoving the plate underneath the North American plate here. Getting some activity a little bit more shallower than the tremor activity that we normally see in this region. Some of this earthquake about 12 to 15 kilometers deep in that area, and notice a pretty wide swath of activity throughout. Look at this line of movement here across the Sierra Nevadas into the Pyramid Lake region of Nevada, and some activity out around the Tonopah region. So a lot of scattered activity, but most of it is light today. Not a whole lot of large scale, even moderate movement out here along the west coast, and no major swarming at all in any areas aside from our typical Clear Lake volcanic field there with the Calpine hydrothermal operations. Staying pretty busy today, it looks like. Creating energy out of sewage, raw sewage. Let's see what else we got here. Throughout Utah, some movement up against the hills here around Cedar, Utah, and a little bit northward, it looks like. Had some activity up in the Yellowstone region as well. Looks like a 1.3. Let's go ahead and pull up the Yellowstone seismographs here and see what we got going on. Looks like, wow, looks like we're perfect timing. It looks like we might be entering into a little swarm of activity. Seeing that earthquake spike activity there at just within the last last hour or so. Some movement kicking up here around the Norris Junction region, it looks like. And let's see what else we got. A little bit of clutter and noise out there. I'm not for sure what we got for weather going on. Some of this, though, even though it kind of looks like earthquake activity here, kind of looks like it may be some type of weather event over here around Maple Creek. I'll check that here in a second. Earthquake activity for sure, though, around this area. Notice that Soda Butte earthquake signature right here. That's just before the 1930 UTC time. See if we can find that just before the 1930. And a lot of times these guys, even the scientists there, scientists in charge at the Yellowstone National Park area, says they have trouble pinpointing these earthquakes and magnitudes. That's why we don't see these magnitudes on the eastern side of the park pop up on the USGS catalog map. They have some issues trying to pinpoint the depth and the magnitudes and specific locations. So it takes them a little while to pinpoint that activity. But that is an earthquake over there around the eastern side of the park. I'm noticing it here on this station as well, near Holmes Hill, and a couple other stations. So good possibility this could be a mid-2, upper-2 magnitude range earthquake out here around the northeastern section of the Yellowstone, not Caldera, but the Yellowstone National Park area. Let's see. So this other event here, I'm thinking it could be wind. It doesn't look like earthquake activity. Let me go over here to Windy real quick. Windy.com is a cool site to use for anything if you're a weather geek like me. Let's go up into Wyoming up here. Wind gusts, would like to kick those into view a little bit. It looks pretty windy up here around the northwestern portion of Yellowstone. Got gusts up here around 30, and of course higher up here through Montana. So some of these ridges up here, of course, right, may not be showing the specific wind speed at those ridges up at the higher elevations there. So I'm sure they're gusting up to around 30, 40 miles an hour or so around the Yellowstone region. That could be what we're seeing here, because it does pop up a lot of times in this area, and sometimes all across the Yellowstone Park, Yellowstone National Park, when they get some high wind events and thunderstorms. It's not magma movement. Magma movement would definitely look a lot different, I believe, than what we're seeing here. Let's see. There's the signature there again of that earthquake. That I'm pretty certain that it's pinpointed up here, but it did show up down here as well around the Flag Ranch, but not quite as distinct, meaning that it's not a localized quake, but a distant quake from this station. All right, moving on past Yellowstone, what do we got? Pacific Northwest kicking up here a little bit. Outside of Seattle, north of Seattle, some microquakes and some movement out there around Mount St. Helens again. Some microquake activity. We'll go ahead and check that out here real quick, see what we got up there. Tremor map, by the way, last night, only 15 epicenters of tremor. Not that big of a deal. Volcanic seismicity map for Mount St. Helens here. We'll zoom into the dome station up here and check out the recorded data from a 3-component broadband station that monitors local seismic activity at the Mount St. Helens region. So we'll give this thing a little second. There we go. Not a whole lot going on. I only see a couple small earthquakes in the vicinity of the Mount St. Helens area. See these little dots, little spikes, I should say. Not a whole lot of them compared to days past, I should say, or weeks past. We've been seeing quite a few microquakes, but today, not that big of a deal. All right, let's see what else we got here around the bend. Hawaii still kicking up pretty good around Mauna Loa, getting a swarm of activity up here. Got to watch that pretty closely. All of this activity is very shallow, meaning that it's kicking up right at the very top of the crater and maybe just right underneath around the Mauna Loa area. And we can check out the GPS coordinates here on any area here across the Earth, but we will check out Mauna Loa specifically and see what we got for some latest data up here around the crater area. This looks like about the right region here. See what we got. 2022. Now, any volcano, right? This one's pretty active. It hasn't erupted in quite a while, but it is active in terms of inflation, deflation on the vertical uplift movement. Now, this goes since about 2002. Uplift in millimeters there, so we're going up. We've been going up for a while, but there's no dramatic, super huge increase that we would recognize with volcanic, potential volcanic eruption stage. But each volcano is different. Earthquake activity at a volcano is very normal. It's when we watch these GPS stations here, if they kind of give a a little telltale sign of some inflation. Also gas emissions we monitor as well. Then we could be saying, hey, this thing's getting ready to fire back up. But I think right now we're just looking at some just typical earthquake activity. We'll watch that pretty closely. There's a couple different sites to monitor for that movement, and also for notifications. The hazard notification system, known as HANDS for volcanoes, covers a couple different areas. I like to watch all of them, but today we're going to go with the HVO. And there's not a whole lot here. Mauna Loa was put out here, looks like a few days ago, almost a week ago. So no new changes put out for the Mauna Loa area volcano. The latest update here at the Kilauea Volcano continues. And this has been a repeat for many months now. It's the same activity summary, and it hasn't changed. Activity continued over the past 24 hours. All recent lava activity has been confined to the crater. That's how it's been, and I think that's how it's going to be. How it's going to be for a little while, unless something major changes. All right, so watching that Kilauea Volcano we just covered. A little activity outside of there. 2.1. Pahala. There's that big swarm of activity occurring since the 60s or so, probably even before that. Loihi Seamount. Not a whole lot of specific activity around it. Most of it's kind of trailing off here, off the southeast flank region. So I'm still kind of watching that. They had been popping off there last week or so with some good earthquake activity. Today though, not a whole lot, but still gotta watch it because it can change in a blink of an eye. Alaska, about the same up here. Very typical along a major plate boundary. No major swarms, no major earthquake activity. Very quiet though throughout the Pacific Ring of Fire along the northwestern and western portions around the Philippine plate. Mariana Trench, very quiet as well. A lot of this activity from yesterday kind of spread out in a little sequence there, individually spaced. Haven't seen any major movement. This activity here in the Fiji Islands area from last night, the deep one, 4.1, pretty deep earthquake movement. We haven't seen any renewed activity here, so this is a little on the worrisome side, considering that it's normally one or the other here along the Pacific plate. Either the west coast is brewing pretty good here along the eastern side of the Pacific plate, or the western portion here is brewing. But right now it's just kind of at a standstill. As far as earthquake activity goes, we did have some movement in Afghanistan, Turkey, outside of Baghdad, Iraq area overnight and this morning time frame, it looks like. And of course that movement up here in Iceland, this one occurred looks like late last night for that 5.0. South Sandwich Islands, seen some movement earlier this morning, it looks like. 103 kilometers, there we go. We're getting in with that deep earthquake movement again here into the trench areas. We have been noticing a little bit of activity here in the South Sandwich Islands. This is the last 30 days of activity. It looks like about 31 earthquakes or so, all above 4.0. This is not covering anything below that. So this thing could be getting ready to maybe pop off another 6 or 7 in this area. I know we had some 8. We had an 8 last year, right? And some 7 magnitude earthquakes within this region. Just because it's been a year or so since we've had that type of activity, there's always that possibility of building up some further strain. And 5.1, that's about all we've seen in this area over the last 30 days. So possibly looking at maybe some further larger scale movement happening there in that region. Let's see what else we got. I think that's about it for this area. We'll cover a little bit more tonight on the Iceland area, looking over a couple different graphs and charts put together for tonight's update. Earthquakes Canada, the folks to the north of us here, looks like a little activity way up here in the bay. What is that? Lancaster Sound region had an earthquake, the latest quake here from yesterday, it looks like a 3.0. Way up there. Probably much cooler up there than it is in California today. Aside from that, things all older across the board here across Canada, including the West Coast region, BC area. Not a whole lot going on throughout the northern end of the Cascadia. All this activity from days and weeks past. Solar weather activity. I'm sure you've seen a little article floating around on social media there. All the news outlets are sharing NASA says that expect some major damaging flares coming up as we head towards solar maximum in 2025. Little fear tactic, but they're partially right. We're all so dependent right now on electronics. We got a whole bunch of space junk up there above us. We get some good solar flares, and we might be able to short circuit a couple of those up there, and that wouldn't be good. But we are headed towards solar maximum in 2025. I think it was July, June or July, sometime around there, I believe. I believe, right? Solar maximum's 2025, I think. The smoke is still just kind of not good. We're going to cover the fire here in just a second as well. But as far as solar flare activity, we are crackling a little bit here with some C flares. Getting back up into the C flare category here overnight. That's going to be coming from, from at least one sunspot way on the eastern limb here. Can't really see it, at least on any of these images currently. When was this taken? Recently, but it's back over here from one of these sunspots. So watch these in the coming days. Dynamics mixing here of 3068 looks, possibly could be sparking off some C flares, but I think our main areas may be coming around the bend here. 3070 is the newest named sunspot. It is growing a little bit. We'll watch that as well. McKinney fire. That is still... Let me check the latest update here. I don't like keying up on this and seeing 0% containment. That means there's no boundary for this, and I find that kind of hard to believe, because technically we should at least have some type of containment on some side, whether it's on the north side, east side, west side. You think there'd be a little bit of containment now. Latest update here from 2 hours ago. 56,000 acres. We did get a little bit of rain last night in this area. We are expecting more storms and some more rain up there. So maybe it is putting a damper on the fire, which is good. But that number, it just seems a little odd. So yeah, we're still just kind of watching it. Hopefully this will not blow up anytime soon. That is the map. It hasn't really covered too much down here towards the Wairika area, which is good news. But containment. Why 0% containment? I've seen thousands of CAL FIRE and U.S. Forestry Service up there when I was up there. There's got to be some type of containment. We've seen bulldozers and land movers and all sorts of stuff when me and Miss Mimi's was touring around. So I'm really surprised that they don't have some type of containment. I find that a little on the odd side. As far as new fires that have started, looks like the China 2 fire over here. Whoa, okay, it looks like they renamed it Yeti. You guys seen that, right? It was China. Now it's named Yeti Complex. Not for sure what happened here. The fire is burned up to dozer lines on China Peak as well as 96. Firefighters will continue to work those lines to hold the fire. Engine crews are prepping structures south of 96. So it looks like they renamed it. Again, 0% containment. Okay, 2,430 acres for the China 2, or now the Yeti fire. Okay, I think we even have a fire named the... what's this, the Empire Fire? I thought there was another one called the Hungry Fire. I seen that last night. These guys are changing the names left and right. One of these was called the Hungry Fire. Now it's called the Empire Fire. What is going on? Jeez. Oh, goodness. All right, so we'll cover this a little bit more later tonight, folks. We do got some storms coming up, some more monsoonal moisture. In fact, it's humid out here in California. And I say that because we still have dew points in the low 70s, upper 60s. And let me check my temperature right now here on my weather station. See what it is. And this is kind of a little odd for California standards. 104 degrees out, but feels like 109. So it's warm and it's muggy. A dew point at about 68 degrees and humidity around 30%. So I know the South gets much, much worse than us, but this is very humid for Northern California. with the monsoonal moisture coming in. All right, guys, I'm going to bounce out of here. I will be doing an update a little bit later on. Unfortunately, the stream went down earlier this morning around 2 o'clock for some reason. Not for sure why, how, who did it, what's the reason for them doing it, but it was all green on this end. And, you know, the stream pulled. It got pulled at about 2 o'clock in the morning. So we're back up and running. But I will be doing an update a little bit later on this evening, probably around, we'll see, I don't know, 7 or 8 West Coast time, unless something major changes. But for now, keep an eye out, West Coast areas. Not seeing a whole lot of westward movement here with the general plate tectonic activity. So I would definitely watch for some potential building out here along the eastern Pacific Nazca plate here along the South America region as well. And of course down here in the South Sandwich Islands. All right, guys, stay safe out there. We'll chat you a little bit later on. Take care, everyone, and stay cool.